All right, so here we have the sum of two rational expressions, and this is equal to some other rational expression, so therefore we have what's called a rational equation, right? So the first thing we need to do is, of course, we want to simplify, but the first thing we need to do is factor, then state the non-permissible values. So let's factor this. So let's rewrite this first expression as 2 over, we see we have a difference of squares, so we can write this as z minus 2 times z plus 2, okay? Now we look over here, we can certainly factor this. We see that the greatest common factor between these two terms is 6. So let's factor that 6 out. So it's going to be z times z plus 2, okay? And this is going to be equal to 1 divided by z minus 2. All right, so let's state the non-permissible values, okay? This should look more like a 2. Let's make that look more like a 2, yeah. So for NPVs, the non-permissible values, we're going to state that z cannot be equal to 2, and z cannot be equal to negative 2. That's all we have here, okay. So the next step is to, of course, simplify. So here's what we could do. We could simplify what's going on over here and then cross multiply. This is one strategy that I'd like to use. I'd like to find what would be the lowest common denominator, or a common denominator, for all of these expressions, right? This expression, this expression, and this expression. And then I'm going to multiply both sides by that lowest common denominator, okay? And then that will result in the factors canceling out and then making our calculations a lot easier to do, okay? So let's use LCD to refer to our lowest common denominator. And so this has a factor of z minus 2. This has a factor of z plus 2 and a 6. And this has factors z minus 2 and z plus 2. So our lowest common denominator has to include this 6, right? It's going to be 6 times z minus 2 times z plus 2. All right, so that means we're going to have to multiply everything. Let's multiply everything by LCD, okay? So here we go. I'm going to take this term and I'm going to multiply it by LCD, right? So 2 over z minus 2 times z plus 2 times LCD plus 10 times LCD over its common denominator, right? Or I mean its denominator. 6 times z plus 2 is equal to LCD divided by z minus 2. Okay, well, so what's going to happen here? Well, with this expression, we've got z minus 2 here and z plus 2 over here. And so it means that if we multiply by the lowest common denominator, it means we're going to include this 6, this factor of z minus 2, and this factor of z plus 2. So it means that that these factors will cancel out, and all we'll have is a 6. So it's going to be 2 times 6, okay? And then for this over here, 10 times LCD over 6 times z plus 2. Well, if LCD is equal to 6 times this, that means that this 6 and this z plus 2 will cancel out with this, and what the factor that will remain will be the z minus 2. So 10 times z minus 2. And this is equal to, well, if the lowest common denominator is 6 times z minus 2 times z plus 2, then this z minus 2 will cancel out with this z minus 2 over here, and we'll have 6 times z plus 2. Okay, so now this looks a lot less complicated than this over here, right? We want to get rid of the fractions, right? We want to get nice terms, nice values to work with. So 2 times 6 is just going to be 12, and 12, and then we're going to distribute over here. So this is going to be 10 times z, 10 times negative 2, so plus 10z minus 20 is equal to, We just need to distribute here and here, so this is going to become 6z plus 12. And so we can collect like terms over here. We've got a positive 12, and we have a negative 20, so that's going to leave us with negative 8. So 10z minus 8 is equal to, we can't really simplify this, so we'll just write it down again, 6z plus 12. And this is really, really easy, right? This is just a linear equation. So we can subtract 6z from both sides, okay? And we can add 8 to both sides. So we have 10 minus 6, that's just going to be 4z. And this is going to be equal to, well, 12 plus 8 is going to be 20. And so if we divide both sides by 4, we can see that z must be equal to 5. Okay, and we're done.